Karen, welcome again. My name's Elaine with there we go. So welcome from the Boulder Transportation Connection staff. I'm Elaine, Sustainable Transportation Planner here in Worminghouse, Senior Manager of Transportation, and Amanda Mansfield, who's now serving as Program Consultant, attending virtually today. We've got some great stuff on today's agenda. We'll be getting some updates about what BTC has been up to lately. We're really enjoying doing some highlights of businesses. So today I'll let you know what's going on with the Nature Conservancy. Karen will present about some great tax benefits available in the Colorado Food Program. Jessica, Dana, Sanchez, with Boulder County Mobility for All. Rachel is here from Bicycle Colorado. So we'll be getting great information on equity and transportation issues, as well as we hope some time to hear from you during the day. So right now, I'd like to turn things over to Amanda Mansfield.
Thanks, Elaine. I was having some trouble hearing you, by the way, online. So maybe just if you stand in one spot and look out towards the owl, just FYI. But happy to present on some BTC updates for the room. I'm assuming everyone can hear me fine. So first, there is an exciting announcement regarding Winter Bike to Work Day, which is that BTC and the Chamber welcomed over 300 participants to our two highly successful events on February 10th. We started with a morning breakfast station at the Chamber and finished the day with a bike home happy hour that we did in partnership with Community Cycles and the City of Boulder's Community Vitality Team, and it was held at Boulder Junction Access District in the afternoon. So we were very excited, and we applauded all of you intrepid bicyclists who celebrated the winter weather, the invigoration of winter biking with us, and we look forward to a bigger celebration of Summer to Work Day on June 28th. The next item is our Commuter Connections program. TC was awarded a grant from CDOT, a TDM innovation grant, as well as from the city and the county, launch an equity-focused commute financial assistance program. And this program will provide free transit passes, free van pool or subsidized van pool, subsidized carpool, free annual B-Cycle membership, free guaranteed ride home rides, and a Community Cycles gift card to employees for the rest of 2023 who qualify as low-income, alternative shift, or essential workers. So that's an exciting program we are working on currently. We also won a grant, much thanks to Elaine, also from the city to manage and implement the 2023 Boulder Junction Access District event series. This is a very exciting opportunity. We held our first event, which was the February 10th Winter Bike to Work Day happy hour. Our next event will be April 25th at the Hyatt. It will be a community event to celebrate the upcoming Clean Air Month. So all these events will be at Boulder Junction. There'll be a June Walk and Bike Month community event, a grand large-scale block party celebration in August, and in October there'll be an electric vehicle ride and drive and EV fair. So all these events, of course, are focused on promoting the sustainable transportation offerings available to BJAD residents and employees. We also won an award. The Boulder Chamber and BTC received the Best Idea Award from the Association of Colorado Chambers of Commerce. And we got it because of the integration we did. So back in 2021, BTC became part of the Chamber, and it's been such a great partnership that it was recognized by the statewide organization. And I'll finish up with a look ahead for this year. So first, I'll just mention briefly that Karen will be talking later on in the presentation and giving more detail about some really great news with regard to RTD Eco Passes. They're super low prices, and the fact that the investment that an employer could make in eco-passes for their employees rather, will be even more economically beneficial to them due to the new and exciting House Bill 1026 50% tax credit. So I'll let Karen speak more about that. She'll also speak about the Colorado Clean Commute campaign, which we're partnering with DRCOG and other TMAs to promote in relation to House Bill 1026. I'll also mention that BTC and others partnered with RTD staff to conduct educational outreach to the Boulder community on the Northwest Rail Peak Service Study open houses that RTD undertook. The study does have much farther to go, but currently it's exploring the feasibility and the cost to offer 3 Longmont, Boulder, Denver trains on weekday mornings and 3 trips that return in the evening. And again, in partnership with RTD and other partners, we promoted their in-person open houses and a virtual open house, which wrapped up at the end of February. There will be further public information opportunities on the phases of the study throughout the year, so keep an eye open for that. And last but not least, TC, along with Smart Commute and Commuting Solutions, 2 other TMAs in the region, is a communications lead with the CDOT communications team, which oversees corridor-wide communications for the Colorado 7 multimodal corridor, making sure the public understands all the elements of this really exciting bus rapid transit and bike infrastructure project. And yeah, we are really excited to be a part of that team and to help the public understand what great sustainable transportation options are being worked on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Great to hear. Obviously, we're really busy, so if there's any of these programs you're interested in learning more about, please reach out and let any of us on the BTC team know. I wanted to highlight now the Nature Conservancy and the efforts that they've undertaken to promote sustainability within their team. Conveniently for us, the Boulder, Colorado office is right across the little park here, and we have a lot of interaction with them. So if you're not familiar, we show a nonprofit organization working on lasting conservation around 50 states and 70 countries. But this Colorado office does a lot here, but also outside of this community as well. And fighting climate change is a priority for them. As I said, they're kind of right across the park. You see in the green lines, nice access to bike routes. This always makes a difference for business to be able to have their employees biking to work. The hop bus also comes right through this area. And there are buses that are also very close, right along 28th Street. So, also a B-cycle station that is located on the south side of the park. So for an employee that arrives at the office and does not have their own bike with them, the ability to grab the B-cycle for the midday tasks is very great. I asked RTD and discovered they have had eco-passes since 2004. So this to me is really phenomenal and shows the success of a program like this, that the employees have come to count on eco-pass as a benefit. And they've realized that staff talk to each other about, hey, did you realize through work, we get an eco-pass and you can use it on transit in town as well as to the airport. For a number of the employees, that access to the airport was what they really appreciate when they're traveling personally or for work. They can take the bus, but for some, it is how they get to work. Nature Conservancy did acknowledge that even for them, that single occupant vehicle commuting was one of the large contributors to the carbon footprint, and use of sustainable resources like this definitely makes an impact on them, and working to reduce that is one of their goals in trying to be themselves a sustainable organization. So when I asked for comments directly from them, they commented about having the bike racks inside the office. So for a lot of people, different areas in Boulder, somebody might get concerned about theft, might have a bicycle that they don't want to leave outside. Being able to bring it into the office really can make a difference. You'll see we've got on the right-hand side the photo of the entryway, and just off to the side of that entryway is a dedicated electric vehicle charging location, so that employees using that do have great, easy access for the parking and the ability to charge a car during the day. Another quote from Lisa, the office manager, was that she herself does not have a car. So having that EcoPass really makes a difference and allows her to get around in a sustainable fashion and not have to rely on the TNCs, which don't really do things to reduce our carbon emission. And I appreciate that she herself wants to be able to have that sustainable transportation. And then just also through the year, we're often in contact about what's going on buses, what happened with my EcoPass, or renewing things, questions. So she had commented that she views BTC as wonderful and a wealth of resources. So we'd like to be that for our community, and consider reaching out to BTC to take advantage of any of the programs your business may not already be doing. With that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Karen to present the Colorado Clean Commute Campaign.
Great, thanks everybody and welcome. You're going to keep hearing from us throughout the year about House Bill, I'll keep this called House Bill 1026 and the Colorado Clean Commute Campaign. Could I see by show of hands? Raise your hand if you have heard of House Bill 1026 and you feel you're fairly familiar with it. Great. Okay, and have you heard of the Colorado Clean Commute Campaign? Great. Okay, excellent. So they're very intertwined. Let me start out, and we're going to give a little bit more. House Bill 1026, which was passed last year. It's known as the Affordable Transportation Options Tax Credit. So it was passed last legislative cycle. It's in effect for tax years 2023 and 2024. It's the most major tax incentive that we have seen in the state of Colorado to date, bar none from an employer standpoint. What it gives is employers a 50% tax credit back on pretty much anything that you would do to try to help people reduce driving single occupancy vehicles to the office on their commute trips. So primarily, for instance, some of the things that I'll spotlight here, EcoPass. It doesn't just have to be the EcoPass, it can be any transit passes, mobile ticketing, anything transit related, e-cycle, e-scooters, car share, van pool, carpool, a guaranteed ride home, e-bikes, and even including some administrative costs for you to manage these programs and start these programs. It's a very, very significant opportunity. So if employers aren't already aware of this, definitely encourage you to research it more and certainly reach out to us if we can help fill in the gaps and get some of those programs started. But it makes, and today I've folded EcoPass and e-cycle because I'm going to spotlight those two in particular. And throughout the year, our plan is we'll continue to spotlight some specific things and show you pricing for this specific regional area as well. Let's see. So the credit there's a little bit of a cap, but it's super generous. So employers can spend up to $2,000 per employee per year, and then you get half of that $1,000 credited back when you file your state tax, your state income tax, employer-based income tax for the next year. This is also written into the bill that nonprofits are also eligible. The rulemaking process has not been completed yet. The Department of Revenue has to go through the rulemaking process and produce the forms. The actual state tax forms won't probably be done until sometime mid this year, but there is some very clear language in there stating that nonprofits are eligible, and I believe it's any employer with either 2 or 3 or more employees. But if you're just working on your own or have a private LLC, like that won't qualify, but if you have at least 2 or 3 employees, you qualify for that. And then there is a maximum for the very, very large employers. If you spend, say, $250,000 on alternative transportation, you can get up to half of that, $125,000 as a state income tax. So it's a tremendously lucrative opportunity, I feel say, for anybody to get on board if you don't already have EcoPass programs and other things. It's also the actual verbiage of the bill. So it's, I mentioned the rulemaking process is still in process, but the actual language in the bill is that anything generally accepted transportation demand management strategies, including but not limited to ride sharing arrangements, provision of ride sharing vans, meaning if your company wants to buy vans for van pooling and so forth, that would also qualify, or low speed conveyances such as human powered or electric bicycles, shared micromobility options such as bike sharing and electric scooter sharing program, car sharing programs, and guaranteed ride home programs. So those are the items that are specifically called out in this one section. There's more to it than that. We're super fortunate in Boulder to have that whole list of things that I just mentioned: transit, e-cycle, car share line. I think we have representatives from all of those mobility providers in the room. So we're super lucky not, because this covers the entire state of Colorado. There's certainly areas that don't have, for instance, e-cycle or Lime or car share. So we're lucky to have all of these tools in the toolkit, so to speak. So if you are a Boulder-based employer, this is a tremendous opportunity for you. And then to go into some of the details, the other piece. So there's Clean Commute campaign. So this is my way to go, and Dr. Cog has put together a portal. If you just go to coloradocleancommute.org, this links in with House Bill 1026, essentially. There's a 3-step process. The first step is to take a 10-minute assessment so that we know this is an employer assessment. So you would say, yes, we already provide EcoPass. Yes, we have B-Cycle, or no, we're really interested. We have EcoPass, but we don't have B-Cycle yet. Please contact us and get us more information. So the first step is a very quick 10-minute employer-based assessment. So somebody like on your operations or HR could fill that out. Then the second step is to do an employee survey. And then the third step is covered up over here. But the third step is we, as a Transportation Management Association, can help support you through that whole process of, we do the surveying and then we can help you figure out what's going to give you the best rate of return. What's going to be, like if you don't have EcoPass ready and you're right along a really good transit line, chances are doing the EcoPass program is going to give you the best ROI for that investment. If you're having employees come from East Boulder County and there's not good transit, you might want to start looking and investing in carpool or van pool options. So we'll help you figure out what's going to give you that best ROI. But again, with that 50% tax credit, it's really a great time to like start adding in new tools in the toolkit. Let me also spotlight. I just want to, for this meeting, I'm just going to spotlight two to show you just, I guess I'll say how cheap, just what an incredible bargain right now EcoPass is in particular. And some of you might be, well, first off, can you raise your hand if your employer has EcoPass program or you have an EcoPass yourself? So there's quite a few people that still don't. Okay, great, thank you. So EcoPass, the pricing can vary from year to year. RTD basically based on the past year's usage and pricing. During COVID, bus ridership went down significantly. The good news of that is that now the EcoPass program is super cheap for employers. So if you there's 3 different zones within Boulder. We can go over those in more detail. You can contact us and we can specifically figure out which one you're in. But generally, like zone C is probably going to be closer to the downtown area where there's really good transit service. Zone A is where there's not as good of transit service. But even with those differences, I'll show you at the bottom at the end, the final column, it's still very, very cheap. So say, for instance, you have, this is based on 100 employees, but I'll just pick the middle tier here. Say you're located in zone B. You have 100 employees. Your full year cost to get an EcoPass, a bus pass that they can use the entire year for work trips, personal trips, going to the airport, anything, any RTD service, the full year cost would be $84. RTD nicely has a prorated piece of their contract, so if you don't start that until April 1st, that cost is already down to $63. So that alone is a tremendous deal. But with the 50% tax credit, you could be looking at only to buy all of your employees, 100 employees, it's $31 per employee for the entire year. That, like, you go to the airport once or twice and you've already gotten that back. So as a transportation benefit, this is just, it's a steal, it's a deal. So some of the fine print is that the contracts can be prorated depending on start date. Another nice thing that RTD has been doing is that they will take a look at your full-time employees who work predominantly on site. If you have 300 employees, but only 100 of them are coming in on a routine basis, they let you use your discretion to figure out what predominantly is, but you only have to pay for the employees that are working predominantly on site. That's another great key aspect to this too. They let you opt in if you want to add in your part-time employees, but if you do your part-time employees, you can't pick and choose. It has to be all of them that are working predominantly on site as well too. So there's some fine print to it, and then one of the other pieces to it, I do want to emphasize, there are contract minimums that RTD has in place. Those are essentially there because it takes quite a bit of administration time too for RTD to set up these contracts and so forth. So they wouldn't want to set up one contract with an employee for just one person for like $100. It's not worth their time and probably not the employer time too. So the minimum you'd be looking to pay, and then it doesn't get further, the minimum you'd be paying is the $1,368, even if you start in April. But the sooner you start, get to use it for full agreement, it's a tremendous value. I'm gonna go on to B-cycle in a minute, but before I move on, does anybody have any general questions on this one? Yeah.
So if we had 200 employees, but maybe only 100 of them would be interested, you still have to contract for all of them that are on site?
The ones that are on site, yes, as if they're working predominantly on site. If you have 200, and I'll just say if all 200 are predominantly working on site, but only 100 want to use it. If they're still reporting in predominantly on site, you have to pay for all 200 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question. That is, it's kind of built on an insurance model. That's how the pricing can be so cheap. And it's also like the hope is that once people are incentivized, even if they're not using it for their daily work commute, again, you can use this for personal trips. You can use this to go to the airport. There's no, it doesn't have to be just for a work trip. It can be anything. So like Nature Conservancy was finding it, it's like it's just such a tremendous transportation benefit, especially when you're looking at employee recruitment, retention issues. It's a wonderful tool to have in a toolkit. And then my next piece is coupled with, for instance, B-cycle. So for instance, some of you may know that there has been some service reductions due to COVID, but the regional routes are still quite good, but sometimes the local routes don't run as frequently. So coupling EcoPass with B-cycle, if you put those two tools and hold it together, now you can finish that last mile connection issue quite well. And you can save money on this as well. So let me do the breakdown, the annual, and Kevin, by the way, is back in Kevin from B-cycle is back there. So if you have any questions about this, something you're glad to talk to me later during Q&A or after the meeting. But this year, their individual membership pass rate is $150 per person. That's for the entire year. Gets you unlimited rides up to 60 minutes at a time. Is that right? Up to 60 minutes at a time. Yeah, so unlimited 60 minutes at a time is $150 per person if you're an individual. They will right off the bat, starting off the top, they'll work with you. They'll look at how many employees do you have, where is your location, is there a B-cycle station close by? Kind of similar to like how our team is like, what's the level of service? We'll look at what's your level of service, and then based on that, generally you'll receive a discount somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 50%. Just it's as a corporate discount, and again, similar to what the EcoPass, it's you want to get it for all of your employees. It's not pick and choose like, oh, we have 100 employees, just 5 of them want this pass. But the key goal here is to get this in the hands of all of your employees so they can all use it. So again, if you purchase passes for all of your employees, then you're down to $75 per employee for the full year. The state tax credit brings that down to $40 to $55. So if you combine the two, so you're looking at roughly, if you were to do an April start, for $100 per employee this year, you can give them a transit pass for any RTD service and B-cycle for unlimited 60-minute rides all year. So I guess it's hard pressed to find a transportation option or tools in the toolkit that would rival that and give people that mobility on a daily basis for that inexpensive and the freedom, the freedom of mobility. Again, it's like the entire RTD service district. You can go down to Denver, ride the light rail. There's no limits. If it's an RTD run bus or service, the Eagle Pass is part of that.
Actually, don't forget, you can use it on the Flex bus as well. It's honored on that, except the Flex isn't charging.
Yeah, so there's flags in this, well, in summer months, the recreational shuttles as well, those, I don't have to charge, those are free, yeah, so. Okay. Yeah, any questions on this piece?
Erin,
Yes.
this is Amanda. Can you just remember to repeat people's questions?
Okay, great, thank you.
What about the snow city?
Great question. The RTD pass doesn't cover that, but CDOT, the ones that are run by CDOT have their separate individual pricing. But it's not covered by the.
That's correct, but the Eco Pass does get you the ride to Denver to get onto the bus.
Cycle bicycles are on the street right now.
The question was, how many B-cycle bikes are on the street right now? 300, and they're all electric. And we also have 20 line scooters that we have on the street right now.
Currently 288 operating the city.
And how many car share cars do we have? Or better. All right, and for today, in the interest of time, so just spotlighting, going back to this slide, these two modes or options, bus and B-cycle, in the future meetings throughout the year, we'll be spotlighting others, for instance, Colorado car share, Lime scooters. We've got a special vehicle carpool program going too, so it's just a really wonderful opportunity. If your business is not looked into the credits or the options from that are afforded under Code 1026, feel free to reach out to us. And then in addition to, you do the survey, and you can also, after you do the survey, you can get a little stamp of approval, be clean commute certified, and get like a little award and sticker for that as well too. So display that proudly if you're on your website. If anybody has any questions, we'll Q&A time at the end too, but feel free to reach out to us individually after meeting.
Thank you so much, Karen. And as she said, we here at VTC are always available to answer your questions. You can just reach out to info@bouldertc.org if you don't know any of this individually that you want to direct to immediately. I'm really happy to introduce now. Are you one of the newest members of Mobility for All at Boulder County? Okay. And one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is Jessica and I both have geography and planning as our educational background, which I think is a great combination. But I'm really very pleased to welcome Jessica Sanchez to join us today. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, I remember when I first joined the county LA gave a invitation. It's like geography, me too. So I actually got my PhD in geography last year at DU. And later I joined the movement program in the county. Just by a raise of hands, how many of you have heard? Yeah, cool. All right, so For those of you who don't know, Mobility for All is a bridge program. We are in Boulder County, and what we want to do is promote equitable, affordable, and accessible transportation to everybody, including people obviously who need it the most. And we believe that transportation is really at the center of many different opportunities in our life. Transportation gives us access, to housing, safety, employment, of course. I added this QR code in case you wanted to go to your website. I used to teach at DU and students were always on their phones, so I was trying to get good use of those phones. If you're interested, you can find all the information of the program there. And I have, this is just the first of many. The program first started in 2008. And now we're growing, like Elaine said. I was recently relatively new hire, and now we have a support outreach specialist. Program is growing. So we focus on 4 different objectives. The first one is expanding affordable transportation options. We also promote multimodal transportation, foster collaboration, and develop transportation policies. And I'm going to go very quickly through all these 4 objectives. Okay, yeah, sure. So the first one will be expanding affordable transportation options. And it's actually very related to what Elaine was talking about and with the EcoPass. But first of all, we provide a lot of information to people who call us or who email us. We know that for a lot of people who commute or work or study, they mostly think about cars as a way to transport themselves. So we really try to educate people in teaching them what are other modes of transportation, and then also like how inexpensive it is, how it's free to walk and roll, how there's options like bicycle to bike to work, how to use an EcoPass, where to find information about bus passes, bus routes, carpooling and vanpooling as well. We also refer people who might be interested in doing volunteer driving or other type of volunteer options. Dedicated services. For that, we mostly educate people on paratransit and Access-a-Ride or via mobility services. And then in some scenarios too, we also provide Uber and Lyft credits for people who have emergencies. So there's a lot of education behind this, trying to get people to understand how mobility is more than just like hopping on your car. We also have different support programs. The bigger one that we have is the EcoPass. So we issue free EcoPasses to all Boulder Housing Authority residents. So if you or any of your employees live in a housing authority, they can contact us and we will give them an EcoPass just by living in one of those places. We also have several pilot programs. Right now, I'm very excited. One of my coworkers is working with community cycles, and he is giving free bikes to housing authority residents. We're also teaching them how to fix a flat and kind of like a one-on-one on what's important to know when you have a bike. Another QR code if you want to learn more about that program and how to earn a free bike. And then we also promote multimodal transportation. For example, Mobility for All was very involved in the creation of Ride Free Lafayette as one of the fixed routes that in Lafayette that was kind of like a transportation desert. So now we have that, which is very exciting. And then we also have partnerships with Uber and Lyft. Like I said, sometimes we issue EcoPasses, we give Uber credits or Lyft credits to people who need it. The second objective is promote multimodal transportation. To do that, we attend community-based events and then provide mobility education. We also have a very successful technology education program, and then we do a lot of information and referrals. This is just important to know, but one of the major things, the important and the basic things that we tell people is that housing and transportation shouldn't exceed 45% of your income. And if it does, then we educate them on, okay, like how much are you spending on gas? Do you live close to a fixed route? Does your employer provide carpooling services and so on? So these are pictures of examples. So we go and do tabling events. We also attend to specific events for like different populations, like veterans, older adults, Latinx engagement. Also, we do that. And then the other successful program that we have is technology education. We teach people how to use 5 different apps: Google Maps, the Transit app, the RTD My Ride app, Lyft, and Uber. So we know that this is something that maybe most of us or could take for granted. You just pull your phone, download an app, and then use it. But for a lot of people, it's just not possible because they don't have the technology guidance and education that they need. So we usually do workshops at senior housing authorities and then also housing authority. We also have this workshop with Mobility Options 101, which is the basics of like, here are the buses that are close to you and so on. We work with a lot of low income populations, so the RTD Lyft program is very important for them. I'm sure you're familiar with this program. Like RTD gives 40% off to people who are low income. You just send a form and they kind of like assess your income and then they send you a card. And once you have that card, you show it to the bus driver and then you pay 40% for daily passes. So I think it ends up being like $1.80. So it's pretty good. And a lot of people don't know about it. So that's a lot of what we do. We have all of these options available in the county, but not a lot of people know about them. With the technology education program, we rely a lot on our lovely ambassadors. Our ambassadors are members of the community. They live in different parts of Boulder County or in senior centers too, and they help us promote these workshops. So a lot of the times when we work with older populations, it's the first time using their iPhone or they don't really know how to download an app. And it's much better for them if they have a peer talking to them and walking them through the whole process. So these are pictures of our ambassadors. We actually do travel trainings with them. Over here, we went to Fort Collins on the bus, and then we also had a Christmas party. This is another QR code to our YouTube channel where you can find their videos. They talk a little bit more about like what is it like to be an ambassador, basically a volunteer to this program, and how to promote mobility options. And Leonard is actually here too. He's one of our ambassadors. So that was a nice surprise. Then we also have a newsletter. So on our website, you can find the link to sign up for our Mobility for All newsletter. We provide information related to obviously mobility and transportation notes that are important for the region. And then we also highlight things related to the month. For example, for Black History Month, we talk about Rosa Parks and Claudette Colvin. And that QR code takes you to the newsletter if you're interested. And this is a bilingual newsletter too. So. Then the other thing that we do is fostering collaboration, and that's mostly through the Mobility and Access Coalition. I know that Elaine is part of it. I wonder if some of you are part of it too. Right there in the photos. Oh yeah. This was before times, I think. This was before the pandemic. Now we usually meet on Zoom, or has been over Zoom since the pandemic. So this coalition was founded in 2012, and we basically get together to talk about transportation needs and how to overcome specific silos. So the Ride Free Lafayette program that I mentioned before, it was basically supported and created by the MAC, and that effort was very much in collaboration with the members of the MAC. We also provide recommendations to improve certain transportation systems, develop strategies and tools to improve mobility, and also do education. We have a lot of partners. Wait, this one is okay. Let me see where are the partners. Maybe you got lost. It's okay. Another important thing that we do with the MAC is, we have a newsletter and let's see. Okay, the fourth objective maybe got like a little bit mixed, but it's okay. The fourth objective that we have is promote human-centered transportation policies. So with that, we do a lot of inclusive planning practices, and these are kind of pictures that we took during the transportation master plan. We will go with communities and ask them about their specific transportation needs. And a big result of inclusive planning practice was the mobility and access for all ages and abilities plan. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's the first one on its kind. It's a coordinated human transportation plan. It was developed with partners, and we did focus groups with all these different demographics. We talked to individuals with disabilities, low-income families, youth, older adults, and veterans too. And it highlights the priorities for the next 10 years. A QR code to the final report of the plan. I know that we had a lot of success with this plan, and we were very happy that it finally got out, and it highlights strategies for the next few years. And there's this, I don't know if you have time to watch the video, but I have a link to our YouTube channel too, where you can see kind of like the stories that inspired certain strategies that we adopted with the plan. And this is the number of partners that helped us through the MAC to get this plan adopted last year. Finally, another, I guess, regarding the equity part of what we do, which is all everything centered in equity, but we are also trying to promote and help and improve our outreach to Latinx communities. So in that, I'm working on an asset map to finally identify who are the stakeholders in the region who focus and have interactions with Latinx communities, and then see what are their mobility needs. We also, as a county, go to seasonal resource fairs that are mostly tailored to Latinx communities. There's this explorers group that is called Explorando Senderos group, and Latinx families go to different trails within the county, and they kind of like enjoy the outdoors and walk and hike and bike together. So that's another good way to make connections with them. And I'm also part of the Climate Justice Collaborative Workshop, which is a nonprofit that teaches people how to do kind of like meaningful community engagement without causing harm. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is the loteria cards. I have some stickers in the bag, and I also brought some other swag. So in brochures, so if you want to learn more about the program, please grab some of those items. And these are the ways that you can contact us. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and thank you for your attention.
We do have a few minutes. I see a question in that, Graham.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Curious, it was a very technologically savvy presentation you gave. I saw the absence with bicycles. I was wondering if the county or the city would ever consider kind of updating the way we license bicycles, including technology, GPS, security technology that could be added to a bicycle when it is actually licensed in the first place. I'm sure there's something out there. I don't know if a government program is the right match to take that on, but I just think, we're simply looking at the trends. I know people who enjoy their bicycles, but they're nervous about riding them, even just to their friend's house or to a location during the day. And this is true with all types of populations in the county. So I was wondering if it's even come up on the radar with you?
Yeah.
Real quick, just for people listening online, Graham is asking about whether it makes sense to license bicycles and leverage the technology.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of talk with the new e-bikes and them being more expensive, heavier, and more, I guess, valuable. I know that there's talk about classifying them differently, but I haven't heard a lot about permitting them. But I can ask and I can get back to you. It sounds reasonable, and I know that it's a concern. I know that the other thing that we're doing is, we work with housing services within the county to make sure that new developments that are, paid by the county have bicycle infrastructure that's, that's it's a good amount and it's the right way to store a bike that is in an area that is convenient and then also working on having bus stops within those areas too. So I know that those are the efforts. I haven't really heard much about the permitting side of bikes, but yeah, I can ask and let you know.
Yeah, and by the way, if you get your bike stolen, it can turn your life upside down,
Right.
short term or long term. And so I'm not specifically asking for electric bikes, I'm talking about all bikes.
Yeah.
It is available out there, I'm just wondering if that would be a match for a government program to take that initiative.
That's a good question.
There is that bike index program where
Right.
they can serial numbers and they do have kind of a better.
Yeah, I was about to mention that bike index is a great, that the police are actively promoting that people register bicycles through that. It's nationwide, so it helps with the tracking and I always hope it helps on prevention if you have that sticker, but who knows. I think we have time for one other question. All right, yeah. Well, thank you so much. All right. Well, we are so very pleased to kind of continue our discussion on transportation and equity. Joining us today is Rachel Houghton from Bicycle Colorado. And here we are saying, oh, we didn't hear as much about bikes on this presentation. What I'm loving with Rachel is we hear about not just bicycles, because every element in our transportation system can make a difference. So please join me in welcoming Rachel Houghton.
Thank you.
All right, so. Okay, hi, can you guys hear me okay? All right, I tend to get squeaky, not loud, so if I start squeaking, let me know, like, yeah. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, all right, I don't get much louder than this, so I will do my best. So I'm Rachel Houghton, I'm the Director of Sustainable Transportation for Bicycle Colorado. Bicycle Colorado, we just celebrated our 30th year advocating for everyone who loves riding a bike, is interested in riding a bike, or believes that riding a bike is actually just one of the most pleasurable things that we can do, except for when it's terrifying. And that's why we're an advocacy organization, is to make the conditions better for everybody. My job as the Sustainable Transportation Director is to ensure that our state and regional agencies are working collaboratively with community organizations and other partners to shift funding away from car expansion and investing in cars as a transportation system, and shift those investments into mobility for all, to use a great phrase, that includes walking, biking, transit. As Elaine just said, my title's Bicycle Colorado. I have a bunch of t-shirts with Bicycle Colorado on them. I ride my bike all the time. I spend a lot of my time talking about transit and land use. So I think it's really interesting time right now when we're looking at the mobility ecosystem. But Bicycle Colorado really solidly believes that we can really lead mobility with the bike. And as we saw in a couple of slides earlier, that the bike's actually a really cost-effective way of transportation. So this is an exciting time, and we'll touch on e-bikes momentarily. Sorry, and I am not good with these things, so. Nope, wrong way. I'm better at driving my bike. Okay, so we're gonna talk about equity in transportation, and we're gonna take a slightly different lens. Actually, the previous presentation was a great cue up for some of the things I'm gonna talk about. But I think anytime you talk about equity, it's really helpful to have a shared understanding of like what do you mean by equity? And also, what do you mean by transportation? So a lot of us in the room are of the same age. And, you know, transportation, and for me, until relatively recently, meant, you know, the system that served people who had cars. Like that's what, when someone said transportation, that's what I assumed. This is what Google thinks it is. And that's the system that's been in place for a really long time. Boulder is way ahead of the curve, even within Colorado, and Colorado is a little ahead of the curve in terms of like expanding what that option means. But there is a gigantic bureaucratic system in place that when you say transportation, this is what comes to mind. I actually kind of like this definition from I think it's from Merriam-Webster, and it defines transportation a little bit for those of you in the back who can't read that far. That would be me in the back. You know, it just talks about conveyance or travel from one place to another, and that makes a lot of sense. Public conveyance of passengers or goods, especially as a commercial enterprise, right? Like we need to remember, you know, our transportation system isn't just about moving people, it's about moving stuff. But my favorite is that this also includes banishment to a penal colony. And that is actually what the experience of transportation feels like to a lot of people. And when we talk about expanding mobility choices, it's really about getting out of that banishment to a penal colony and like really trying to come up with a system that really works for everybody. And that's what transportation equity is. So we're going to spend just a minute on the transportation equity definition, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about what's some data and some ways to think about this, what Bicycle Colorado is doing, and then what you can do. Thank God the government has defined this for us. And it's actually not a bad definition. This is from FHWA, and they define transportation equity as equity in transportation seeks fairness in mobility and accessibility to meet the needs of all community members. And it's actually fairly elegant, and I think it captures good intentions, and it gets away from just assuming we're talking about like happy white people in cars, and is starting to recognize that transportation is part of a community. There's a lot of people in our community. And a commonly used fact that is like the easiest fact for anyone in this room to remember is that in any given community, about 30% of the people don't drive a car. And that's from the American Community Survey. It fluctuates a little bit up and down every time they revise it, but in general, that has been a standing data point as long as I've been in this advocacy world. And but keep in mind that includes like 6-month-old babies. So yeah, thank God they're not driving cars. But we need to recognize 6-month-old babies still have to get places. They have doctor's appointments, right? Like, so they may not be in that small category of people who are eligible and capable of driving cars, but they're still members of a community. And so we really try to think about that transportation as the whole of the community and not just people eligible and able to drive a car. I actually I missed a really important word in this, and as Elaine knows, my colleague left fairly quickly from Bicycle Colorado, so I'm doing 2 jobs right now. That turns into typos occasionally, but I like to use a little bit easier of a definition because I am not the federal government. I think of it as the freedom for everyone to safely access their destination. And what I forgot to add in there, and is really critical to what I'm going to talk about next, is in a timely manner, because time ends up being a huge factor in terms of an equitable transportation system. And to make that point, I'm gonna, who here has one of these? If you, I know in meeting you're supposed to put them away, but I'm gonna ask you guys to go ahead and take this out if you have one. And if you're still on good terms with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, sometimes I'm not doing so well with it. So go ahead and take it out. And I'm assuming most of you are able to do a mapping, like have a map, Apple Maps or Google Maps or some futuristic map that I'm too middle-aged to know about. So go ahead on there and just go into the map and just go ahead and map going from your house to your place of employment or where you go to school, like some regular commuting destination. We're here for, you know, we care about commutes in this room. So go ahead and just take a second and pull that up. I'm going to do it the same for me. got a house, I've got a job. And when I pull it up, I'm gonna just take a quick survey here in the room. Have you guys all had a chance to map your ride here? All right, how many of you was the fastest way to get there by transit? All right, good, that's awesome. That's statistically not encouraging for transit though, right? How many of you, the fastest way to get there was on a bike? All right, it's a couple more, that's good. If you're on an e-bike, maybe you're cheating a little bit, not cheat, I ride an e-bike, it's not cheating, because driving a car is much easier, but you can get places a little bit faster. How many of you, the fastest way to get there is to drive? Yeah, so what we have is a system that has a time inequity in it. And when we think about transportation equity, a lot of times equity, we're talking about disadvantaged populations, people who don't have access to the same mobility choices as other people. And that's very much part of the definitions of transportation equity. But at the heart of it, when we're talking about what are the benefits of being able to choose your mobility, to either have the leisure to choose the not fastest way to get to work, because that's our lifestyle allows it. That's a great mobility choice. I get to ride my bike to work, and I'm really grateful for that. But I also have a job. I work for a nonprofit. We're really loosey-goosey. Nobody really gives a crap the time I get to work. So I have the privilege of making that choice. A lot of people don't. And so I'm love coming to Boulder because my brain is like throbbing with all of the mobility choices that have been scrolling on the screen since we walked in the room. And that's really exciting. And I know that there are places and people in Boulder who are entirely served by that system. But what was just on display here was an incredibly rich ecosystem of mobility choices. And it's really exciting to hear things that are happening at the state level that are making those more accessible, both for individuals, but also for employers who are congregate places for a lot of individuals to make mobility choices because they have a destination that they need to access. So it's an exciting time. But one of the things I really want to kind of shift thinking about, I got it right the first time, is first of all, I want you to think about this person here for a couple of minutes, and imagine the mobility choices for this person when you think about safety and accessing your destination in a timely manner. I always take permission photos, so I got this photo with his permission, and I had a chance to talk to him a little bit. He is the father of 3 kids. He and his wife both work shift jobs. They have 1 car between them, and that car is a little unreliable. He used a lot more expletives when he was describing the car. But between them, they have 2 drivers, several kids, and 1 car, and they have a lot of places they need to be during the day. And so they have to really thoughtfully arrange their days around who's got the car and who's going to be using other sources for transportation to get to work, to get to school, to get to services. And this is the option that they have to get to transit. And so he does not want his wife and kids having to walk here. So he never has the car. He always takes the bus. And so I want to really shift our thinking for a minute around getting past individual choice and mobility and start to think about the household. Because within a household, what we have are people who don't drive. We were just looking at this guy who was really quite excited to talk about his situation. I'm one of these people. I'm a single mom. I have a teenage son who just got his driver's license. I can't afford a second car. And so we are a 2-driver, 1 car, 1 e-bike, and probably too many analog bike households, but I work for bike advocacy, so that's cool. But when you start to think about the household, and you start to look at some of the data around households, in Colorado, 5% of households don't have a car at all. And there's on average, 2.5 people per household. If you want to go a little bit further, in Colorado, about 15% of households with 2 or more people only have 1 car. And so again, every person in a household has a place they need to go. And we have a system that makes it really hard to go to multiple places. If you gotta take your kid to school and get to work, try and do that on transit. It's hard, it's really hard. And so we have a system that through time deficit and through cost burden, really just disadvantages anybody who doesn't have access to a car. I know we all want to drive less, and the purpose of this organization and this meeting is for us to collectively work together to make sure that that's attainable and desirable. For a lot of people, it is their reality that access to a car just isn't an option for them. And so the lifestyle choice for somebody who doesn't have mobility freedom isn't transportation equity. They have time deficits all of the time. They have things they just can't do because it takes them so long to go to the grocery store. One of the events Elaine and I were both at recently, one of my favorite people who advocates in this space for Servicios de la Raza tells a story of a mom who wants to take her young son to go get ice cream to celebrate an academic achievement that he's worked so hard for. And by the time they get home, the ice cream's melted because it has taken so long. And I mean, I've heard that story. I still tell it. I still get goosebumps every time because that's where our transportation system is not equitable. And so when you think about the household, think about every person you're seeing who's getting on a bus has awkwardly 1.5 people at home who are also needing the transportation system to work for them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what Bicycle Colorado is doing. My slides are easily put together because I'm 2 people right now. And then I'll talk a little bit about what you can do, and then I'm going to end on e-bikes because you get e-bikes. But Bicycle Colorado is really excited to work principally at the state level and statewide level. That means that we do try and support local and regional efforts as much as possible. So we work really hard right now to shift as much money, as I said earlier, away from car projects and into walking, biking, and transit. We're really lucky in Colorado that last year our state leadership said you've got to do it because you need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. So from the state to the local level, agencies are scrambling and programmatically shifting money away from car expansions into walking, biking, transit. So that's good. This stuff is geologic and timeline. And so that excitement from last year is going to take years to actually translate into investments in our community. So everything we can do to accelerate those and make sure that those are our leading investments. The only way to get more money is to take it away from stuff that isn't serving everybody. As I mentioned at the beginning, I spend a lot of time advocating for transit. Transit is the heart of the system. The transit system has to work. It is the way people need to get interregionally, do shorter trips. I'm sure you guys have tracked this to some extent, but COVID's changed a few things in a lot of places. And what we're seeing in transportation and travel behavior is that actually traffic volume's up to about where it was pre-COVID. But the types of trips are different. We're seeing more longer trips because we're seeing economic displacement and people have to travel further to get to their jobs. But then we're seeing more shorter trips because people are doing bundled trips on commutes. They're doing these little trips of opportunity because they're trapped in their house like me. And so they tend to pop out. Both of those are great opportunities for non-single occupancy vehicle travel, but we've got to shift our thinking. Transit's really at the heart of it. So I work with coalition partners across the state to really accelerate investments in transit. There's a whole bunch of barriers to that, but we got to make the transit system work more frequently and work in expanded hours because we have a lot of non-traditional workers. Obviously support investment in sidewalks and bike facilities. That's kind of a no-brainer in this space. Always worth saying. Everyone's pedestrian at some point in their trip, and you can never have enough sidewalks. It's come up a little bit earlier, but e-bikes are big and getting bigger. And so recognizing the needs of e-bikes are just like regular bikes and like cars. They want safe places on the road to ride. And we need to make sure we're accommodating them for storage and charging. So we have this EV movement to make sure we've got EV chargers coming into our communities in like really strategic and hopefully like rapidly expanding ways. E-bikes also have range anxiety too. So be thinking about, if you're an employer, can you provide safe storage and charging for e-bikes? And then the more options available, the more equitable the system. I know that kind of goes without saying, but you can never say it enough. And I just want to share one more thing about e-bikes. So tomorrow at exactly this time, the governor is announcing his climate package. And included in that is a proposal for $800 point of sale e-bike rebates for all Coloradans for 10 years. Okay, so think about that for a minute. 10 years where every Coloradan can get an $800 point of sale e-bike tax rebate. And I want us all, as you leave this room, to think about what that means to our transportation system moving forward. It is going to fundamentally change. To me, it could, like, I'm so giddy with excitement. I just want to leave and go camp out on the Capitol stairs. But e-bikes are the solution to our most complicated and pressing problems. They are equitable. They're sustainable. They really allow a lot of our traffic problems to be less problematic, and they're simply a joy to ride. So I want us, I hope I'm back in the room at some point to talk about e-bikes specifically, but just get ready because Colorado is already leading the nation in e-bike investments, and we're about to like quadruple down on that. And the cost of owning and operating an e-bike for 3 years is the same cost as owning and operating a car for 4 months. So when you talk about transportation equity, an e-bike is really a great way to help us get where we need to go. And I think that's it for me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
We have a question online from Lynn Siegel.
Yeah, I have the guy that you showed standing there, the father. I have a shoulder that's even narrower than that, trying to go out to Walmart on Baseline or Arapahoe on my bike, and I'm 70, almost 70 years old. So, and the big construction trucks passing me and waste disposal, giant, you know, like, and almost no shoulder. So like, it reminds me of, you know, the jobs housing imbalance is your biggest problem. You know, I really appreciated what you said about the fact that people lose productivity time. The time is the big factor, time with their families, because they live outside of Boulder, but they're coming in. You know, Mexico, people are commuting from Mexico, right? And they're sending money home to their parents. It's like, how do you balance this situation? Because at the same
Is that
time,
your question, Lynn? How do we balance that situation?
yeah, and how do you get 2206 Pearl Street, which has 300 square foot micro apartments that don't describe in their concept plan where they're gonna put the bike? Where are they gonna put the bike at 2206 Pearl? Where? Because no one's gonna leave it out to get.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. It's why we need to build and plan for the bike as part of the transportation system and not just see it as a recreational vehicle. And so when you know, we all live in communities. I'm an elected official. I'm on city council for Wheat Ridge. Go talk to your city council members and make sure that their planning department is including bicycle storage and bicycle charging in their planning review. Because that is the future. And if it's not starting there, it's dependent on developers. I was a developer for 18 years and very few of them are going to get there on their own. So yeah, that's a great opportunity for advocacy.
I was interested on that time element too, because I once had a job where, because if I drove to work, I had to park away, but I was close to the bus and I had my bike right there. Driving, taking transit and biking actually became kind of equal, which for me was a great incentive. How often does that factor in if we have parking that's not as readily available? Does
Yeah,
that impact?
huge fangirl of getting rid of our parking requirements, because the way people change is by making them uncomfortable. And so, if you make parking hard and they start, people generally, they're like water, right? Like they're gonna wanna figure out the most effective way to get there. And sitting in traffic in their car, parking blocks away, circling for parking, and then having to walk in, there's zero joy in that. Unless you're listening to a really good podcast while you're just in traffic. So I think what we heard today from other partners and what Bicycle Colorado does, and each one of you can do as an individual, is really like talk about those multimodal combinations. Like I do that all the time. I don't, not as much anymore. E-bike actually makes me do less multimodal and just e-bike. But showing someone, I showed my son how to put his bike on RTD a year and a half ago, and I didn't see him for a month, because he all of a sudden could go anywhere he wanted. And so, like really helping people understand, or, like how long does it take you to do the drive, park, walk, and then go to the gym, right? Like, you can start doing time efficiencies, but this is for those of us who have that choice. And for people who don't have that choice, it's why we need to make the system work for them so that they can flex those freedom of choice in other places other than just trying to scramble on transportation. So
For those over age 21 in Colorado, what percentage of those people do not drive?
so I am not a walking encyclopedia, but I would be happy. I can pull that up on the we have a brand new bunch of census data. And I can try and do that. A lot of this data is taken by looking at how many households and how many cars and things like that. So I can ballpark, but we have to remember that there are people who can't afford a car, people who can't drive due to physical limitations, people who can't drive because they may have had their license taken away, and people who choose not to drive because they don't want the environmental footprint or whatever their choices are. So the 30% encompasses your 0 to dead. But, the people who are in that range of being able to be eligible for driving, it's obviously not 30%, but when you actually look at the household, that number starts to creep back into. So.
Question from Will, please.
Yeah, sorry.
And you don't, it's okay if you don't know this, but there was a statistic a few slides back about in 22, Colorado vehicle ownership is over $10,000.
Yeah.
We use that metric a lot in car sharing, and that's considerably higher than a recent third. Do you know where that stat's from?
Yeah, so in one of my slides, I had a stat. So that's AAA recently, and for the first time, it's over $10,000 a year on average to own and operate a car.
Okay.
And I think it's a national statistic, not just Colorado.
Other questions?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I hope everyone enjoys where they're getting out of here to their next place.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Again, here are our presenters, Rachel Hosteen, Jessica Viena Sanchez. If you want to get in touch with them, their contact information is here. We do plan on sharing the presentation deck, so you'll be able to review, see the video after the fact. For me, I thought this was really great hearing about those deeper issues, because I feel like I am one of those people who's very lucky that my husband and I have only one car. A lot of that is by choice, and a lot of that is because I have this kind of job. It means I can bike to work, and my colleagues understand if I'm a little sweaty, or I have a bus pass. And we have B-Cycle right across the street here, which means that's how I can get around during the middle of the day. I very often do put my bike on the bus. During COVID, it was great. I am actually back to where I rarely bring my bike on the bus, despite it being a regional bus. I do not trust that there is space for my bike on the bus. So I don't want to risk somebody else losing out on that opportunity when I know I have something like B-Cycle here. So there get to be these complex decisions to make. And thankfully RTD makes sure they have bike racks on the bus, but there's only 2. There are other buses out there with racks that can accommodate 3 bikes on the bus. This is great. I am such a fan of hitting multiple modes during a day because I walk to get to a bus, come to town, maybe get a bike ride in. Anytime you can shift your trip makes that difference. So thanks for all that you've done.
I've got to say something. I think a large barrier to commuting, transportation to commuting, commuting, especially via bicycle, is people simply don't know how to ride them. I teach, that's what I do. I have a nonprofit that teaches people how to ride bikes, and the problem is exponential. People don't realize how large the problem is. Like, all of us can probably ride a bike here. That's great. We'll choose to commute on. And what you said about safety, about the bike being stolen, is a very valid thing. I ride bikes all the time. I choose not to ride my bike at the grocery store because I don't want to get stolen. I have no way to track it. But the problem with being able to ride a bike safely and in control is a primary barrier to being able to ride a bicycle. So if you want to see transportation increase in Boulder County, we got to institute some sort of formalized training that helps people overcome that barrier. And that goes for kids to adults, 3 years old to 85 years old. Like, it's a huge problem that people underestimate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I concur with that, and I think knowing how to ride a bike is great, and knowing how to ride a bike safely is great, and knowing how to ride courteously, because for me, the fastest rider out there, I'm somebody who really appreciates if somebody acknowledges that they are passing me when I'm riding. So being thoughtful about how we ride is essential. And while the Colorado safety law has come in, meaning a cyclist can approach a red light, you still have to stop to see that it's clear. Or a stop sign, you still have to treat it like a yield sign. I have seen people just whip through those intersections, and I always feel like, as cyclists, the more we can represent and ride safely and predictably, we get a little more credit on the road. I always get upset, somebody who just brazenly disobeys any of the laws. I feel like it reflects badly on me and makes me feel more vulnerable as a cyclist. So just done.
Yeah, okay, just to add on to that, the Safe Routes to School program, with grant dollars, there's actually, there's actually education dollars in there for pedestrians, vehicles, and cyclists, actually. So it might be an interesting sort of add-on later on, but I mean, there's a little bit of a foundation out there already, obviously not now, but there are definitely connecting circles, but they need to be connected harder. And many people in the group probably, as you did it by yourself, I mean, there's definitely circles that connect, and it's how you implement that. Yeah.
And that, Jonathan makes a great comment about the Safe Routes to School program on Jessica's slide. She has a contact for Tammy Edson, who runs that with Boulder County. There are programs where bike safety is taught in the schools, which I actually worked on formerly. One of my deep pleasures was moments I taught a kid something who taught that to their parents. Having a parent who said, I ride, but I came home I picked up my kid today and they taught me something I didn't know. So I think it is a paramount that we keep education about cycling and safety as part of what we do. And thanks also to Bicycle Colorado for developing the bike-friendly driver program, which it would be great to see that just integrated within all drivers' education. One more question in the back?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I did a march on Monday, Friday, in Denver, with Denver East High School, and I kid you not, I had video after video of like, they did all march down to the Capitol, which was amazing, but they didn't want to walk back. And so they found every bicycle that was available in every scooter. And I kid you not, those kids were traveling down, we pulled back 5 on a scooter, 5 to a scooter, 4 to a bike. And so if you go to happy hour from here, it's the exact same, right? Because everyone jumps on the same scooter. And I don't see any kind of any kind of little, I mean, put it up on it, find it right away, throw it up on Snapchat. Here's a video of what happened. They don't believe that those accidents can be significant.
That's an interesting observation about people piling too many people on bikes and scooters. And Bicycles are designed to only be ridden for however many people there are seats for, so it's actually not. It is against the law to do that, but it's not well, Rachel.
So I just wanted to share, a link was part of the bicycle friendly driver course. In the next couple months, Bicycle Colorado is launching Shift Driving, which is an online version of that is free. It's about an hour-long course, and it's kind of an interactive app style thing. So if you're interested in being notified about that, please email me. It's a really, like, we love to work with employers who want to make sure all of their employees who are driving their company vehicles have completed be a courteous driver for vulnerable road users course. Again, it's free, it's online, and we love to work with any businesses interested in ensuring that their employees know how to be courteous drivers for vulnerable road users. So it's in beta right now, and it'll probably launch in May. So please email me, and I'd be happy to get you with that.
And I'm sorry, that's called Shift.
Driving.
Okay, so Rachel's mentioning Shift Driving that will be available from Bicycle Colorado. That sounds like a great opportunity, and we are now at time. I want to thank everybody for coming today. Do keep in mind June 6th, we will be here. We already have like 4 hours worth of possible presentations for that, so I'm excited for it. That will be coming after the start of Walking Bike Month, so mark your calendars for that, but also don't forget that June 4th will be the kickoff for Walking Bike Month with the return of the T360 ride. So thank you all. Look forward to seeing you.